Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Tony G Show. And today I'm joined by some very special guests. Join me and my fellow travelers, Rich and Michele, as we set forth on the USA Road Trip 1998. So I'd like to welcome Michele and Rich to the show here.
Hey.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hey.
Glad you did this.
You're glad? Can you believe it's been 22 years since we did that trip?
Wow. Well, let's see. Well, back then in 98, I was in between jobs. I was working in television for a show called USA Live. The show was just canceled. So I then was working on a show called Bear in the Big Blue House, the Muppet Show for a little bit. I remember I had gotten a computer back in
96. Was, yeah.
So I was fairly new, and I remember I joined. Obviously, everybody was on AOL because that was the only way you seemed to be able to get online. I remember people talking about chat rooms, and I didn't know anything about them. So the first chat room I ever did was, of course, Broadway. I saw Playbill had this site where it's like you can go into a chat room. And what was funny to me was I went in there and there was nobody in there. Like it was like completely empty. So I'm in there just for a few minutes. I'm about to leave, and then that's when Michele popped on. Yeah. So so we were the only two people in the chat room. So we started. I was about to log off the computer. And she wrote, "Oh, hi," and then that's when I said, "Oh, okay, hi," and that's how we started talking.
That's really cool. That's nifty if that happened. For the people, for the kids who might be watching this today, back in those early days of the internet. I mean, I know it's going to make us all feel like old people, but computers were so new that it was very hard to make a connection.
So I have to tell people nowadays, because when you think of meet somebody online, it's usually for one intention, and it was like, no, we were just wanting to talk theater.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we just formed a friendship, and then the rest is history.
Our interest was somewhat in theater. I always wanted to be a scenic designer or director or some kind of writer for plays. And in fact, I studied some of that in school. Rich, you were an actor. You acted in a few different productions. So we had
at that time I was doing a lot of the cap music. I was in the shows. So I had that in common with just we were in, but what was interesting is we were into the same musicals like Les Mis, Miss Saigon. Most of the people who were into theater at that time, it was like you're either Sondheim or you're Son Nobody. I didn't want to know about you. But so we like the same. We mostly like the same type, like Les Mis, Miss Saigon.
Well, Michele, you were for a while there. You were the Les Mis champion or something, weren't you?
The Bay Area's #1 Les Mis fan. That's my title.
Bay Area's, you want to know, you got to have a special experience, I think, right?
I won a contest. Rich actually helped me. Do you remember that? I had to write an essay, and I made it like write an essay about why you're the #1 Les Mis fan. And so I wrote it like a newspaper article, and Rich did his, back then, high tech, he superimposed me with the cast, and next thing I knew, I got a call and had to go through intensive training and then rehearsals and costumes, and then got to be in the show. And for one night, obviously. And Rich got to see me.
Yeah, that's cool. That's
a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's definitely one of the best stories, especially when you dream about something or being part of it, and you actually get to be part of it, even if it's for a night.
Well, and the funny thing is, even all the cast members had never heard of anything like this. They were saying, that would have been their dream.
Of course.
Being in the business, and they said they had never heard of it. So it was meant to be. And I don't know, Rich, do you remember? I have never had so much confidence. I told everyone, I will win this. I mean, it wasn't even like a glimmer of doubt. I said, I am winning this.
Yeah. Once in a lifetime, I think. I don't think we'll see anything like that before again.
Well, speaking of things we'll never see again, when we were, one of the things that always struck me when we were driving across America was that we just kind of got in the car. We did have plans. We did have a AAA book. But we kind of made things up as we went along. I don't even think I could, as an adult all these years later, I don't even think I could even do that again.
I was thinking the same thing. The fact that we were young and ambitious and like not a care in the world, because like you said, no GPS, no cell phones. We couldn't even call ahead to book a hotel. Remember, we would just have to pull up and see if there was a vacancy.
Yes, and especially that night in Colorado, which we'll get back to in a bit. But not only that, but there were a couple of times where I think it was for Arizona, we kind of made the plans at the very last minute. The day before we were about to arrive in Arizona, we looked at the map and said, okay, we can get there in about 8 hours. So let's call the hotel and tell them we'll be there at such and such a time. I cannot see myself doing that this year.
That was originally we were going to take the southern route. Do you remember that, Shell? And then the guy, no, I think we were going to take the guy talked us into the northern route, was it? And, or am I doing it opposite?
No, you're right. Yeah.
So that was the first time. Yeah. He mapped it out for us. He's like, no, you got to do it this way. And it is funny when you look at the video now, like Jen was watching, it's like, wait, but you were here, but then why did you drive up to, the monument when you were in Arizona? Like we did some zigzags up and down. I don't even know. I was oblivious. I feel like I was I had so many thoughts in my head since I was moving, and this was a lot going on, first time leaving home. And
the reason that we made the trip, I didn't include this in the video because I was just focusing on the road trip itself. But the main reason was Richard was moving to California, and I was asked to join them. And I'll tell you, I'm so glad that I said yes, because I would have regretted that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and I don't know what we would have done, Shell, if it was just two of us.
Right, and we have to bring up the fact that we were 3 people in a small Saturn.
That's right.
With a person that is not only moving across country, but then Tony, you and I had our luggage.
Yes, right.
I can't get the image out of my head of the back seat, just so everyone knows. It was a 4-seater, and one of the back seats was from floor to ceiling piled up with stuff. And then when it was your turn to sit in the back, because we rotated, you would have this little space that you were smushed in. And Rich's computer, which was gigantic back then, was in the trunk. And I mean, I just think about it, and it's insane.
And I had just gotten.
It's almost good that I didn't think about what I was bringing with me, because I probably brought as little as humanly possible, because it wouldn't have been able to fit. Like anybody else would have rented a U-Haul thing to drag behind them.
Well, that's why I was making fun of some of my clothes in that video, because I was like, I just brought the bare essentials, it looks like, because it was going to be so hot. I think every day was in the 90s.
Oh,
it was almost 100 every day, right?
Yeah.
And I had just bought a new laptop at the time, and if you look at the picture there, I'm actually there it is. I've got it on my backpack because I was afraid to leave it in the car. It was brand new. I had no idea how laptops worked. I think they were kind of new in general, and I was lugging that thing around. The other day, I picked it up out of its bag, and it's like 20 pounds. That thing is huge.
I was going to say, if somebody tried to steal it, you would have seen like 4 people trying to steal it.
Yeah, that was pretty heavy. So let me ask you, what was your favorite part of the trip? Michele, why don't I start with you this time? If you were to think back to that.
Honestly, I mean, just being in the car was, I mean, we had so many laughs, and we did the show tunes. But as far as like stops, well, before I go into the stops, just the fact that we had this freedom and no inhibitions. We just did it, no fears. But Badlands will always stand out to me, because I just remember the silence and the weird formations. Another part of our zigzagging was, we did want to go to Arizona, but you guys were kind enough to let me stop and see my friend Mary had her first baby. So that I'll remember. But honestly,
how many kids later is that now?
4.
4.
But yeah, just the time in the car, it was just so much fun. I mean, 8 days of talking.
And Rich?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, but I know one funny thing was at the Grand Canyon. I was just thinking about how we were like, we've been pretty frugal the whole trip with hotel rooms and stuff like that. And they said something like, "Oh, we can give you." I forgot how it even put it.
A deluxe room. It was
a deluxe room with an upstairs, right? And I'm thinking, oh, we've got like the giant suite, and we're looking and said, all right, we'll just splurge for this.
And remember, I asked him, I said, it's got to have air conditioning. We've been in the car all day. It's almost 100 degrees. Can we get a nice special room? He goes, oh, I've got the best room for you. I got the best special room.
Yeah. So then we get to the room, and and there's this little, first of all, it looked like any cheap little motel room that you've ever seen, like a Lake George, like thing. And then there's a little fan with the window open. And I'm like, no, that can't be the air conditioning. So I call, and it reminds me of like in Pee Wee Herman's when he says, where's the basement to the Alamo? And there's no basement. Like that was the same. I said, where's the air conditioning? I don't find it. We don't have air conditioning at the Grand Canyon. It's all natural. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. It's like 101 degrees or something like that. And all natural.
Wait, you guys are missing the best part of that place.
What's that?
Oh boy, Rich stepping out the door and a bat.
Yeah.
And he runs in like he saw a ghost.
Well, that was like, it reminded me of Indiana Jones because we had just gone out to get some food for the night at the little food court they had, and we walked back and a bat flittered in front of us, and Richie goes, "Oh wow, what a strange bird!"
Yeah, because I even said, "I'm like, why are all those birds all by the light? Remember there was that big light that was upside down. It was a big lantern. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of birds like under there. And then that's when you said that, and then as we were running to the car, that's when the one flew right across. Oh my God!
I made the Indiana Jones reference. I said I made the Indiana Jones reference. I said that's no bird. That's a vampire bat. I made that joke, and you went shooting off. I think you dropped your food for that matter. I don't even remember.
Oh, he was terrified.
I don't blame him.
All I know is my steering wheel. Remember, it was all bitten up, and because I think we had left. I remember because in the fear of running to the car, I think I had left the window open. So I don't know if you remember, but my whole steering wheel, the whole bottom, was like bitten up as if I didn't know. And I was like. When we looked at it, it was like, could it have been the bats? Like, we didn't know what it was that had gotten into the car.
I don't remember that. No.
I don't remember that either.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but, oh my God, yeah. That was not the bad. That I liked going to the Grand Canyon, but that experience of staying on the Grand Canyon was like.
Well, I will say though, watching that video of the Grand Canyon reminded me of how immense that was and how beautiful. It was always an image in my head that was such a serene place to be and to stand at. And a couple of people mentioned to me that they were surprised that we were able to just sit on those ledges because apparently now they've got some kind of fencing or some kind of bars so that people don't get too close to those ledges that we were sitting at.
Well, finally. That was the one thing too. As beautiful as it was, I felt very uneasy there. Like the whole, and it's my fear of heights thing, but I had a very uneasy feeling at the Grand Canyon.
And Tony, thank you for the Alice Brady Bunch reference. I love that.
Oh yeah. I rewatched the episode before I edited that, and I was going, oh look, we were there, and oh look, we were there. That was pretty cool. That was neat.
Yeah.
Was there a favorite? Was there a stop along the trip that was the most fun to you guys?
Two places we stopped in that I really liked. One was in Cleveland, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah.
Which was really great. But then there was that Amish. Was it Amish or was it? Yeah, the town that we spent a lot of time in too.
And that's where we learned that it was not Lancaster, but
Lancaster.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But yeah, I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because we were like, oh, we'll just stop in for 20 minutes to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and then
that's right. We thought that
there for like 6 or 7 hours.
And remember also, I think at that time you weren't able to. You were not allowed to record anything. I think you're allowed to take pictures and stuff now.
Oh, that's what. Yeah, we didn't film anything in there then. Okay.
Right.
Oh, I can tell you one of my worst memories or worst stops.
Oh yeah.
You guys forcing me to go.
Oh, the Star Trek.
The Star Trek adventure.
The Star Trek
whatever.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's funny.
I could have done without that.
Yeah.
Well,
that's gone now.
What's that?
That's gone now. It doesn't exist anymore in Las Vegas.
Well, for me, I had done so much driving that morning that when we were on that Star Trek experience, I really felt as if we experienced going into space. I remember at one point it had something where it made you feel as if you were transported somewhere. And I looked at my watch to say, what year is this? And I'm wondering why I was looking at my watch to figure that out. But I remember looking at and trying to figure out where we were because it was really surreal.
I mean, I have to say, I mean, that was pretty amazing only because it was Disney's level, like replica of the set and everything. So the way they did it is they made you turn the corner and you didn't realize what was happening. And then they beamed you. Next thing you know, we're on the starship. And that was kind of crazy because It was like, wait, because for a second you could almost believe that this actually just happened because it was so authentic looking. Then they bring us to the bridge, and then it was so. I was surprised they had something that authentic in Las Vegas. Like I've never seen anything like that again. But yeah, I dragged you kicking and screaming onto that thing.
So to all you viewers, do you hear what they're talking about? They knew everything about Star Trek. I didn't know anything and never wanted to. The end.
Well, Michelle, what was a favorite thing for you? What did you enjoy?
Well,
that you had never seen before.
I love the Amish, the Lancaster. I did because I've always been fascinated by that whole culture. And then the Badlands. The Badlands just like
I'm trying to remember. Wasn't the Badlands like a last minute thing? I think I remember that I was carrying in my laptop. I had an encyclopedia, and every place that we were driving through, I would look and see what was going on in that area. And I think I saw the Badlands written in there, and we thought to stop there. Is that correct?
I honestly
and there was some confusion too because I remember we went through the toll and they charged us like some crazy amount because I guess normally you would go there and camp. You don't just go there to say, hey, stop into the Badlands and take a look, because it's so vast.
But where was everybody? I mean,
no way to look. It's not like today where we could have looked it up.
Where was everybody? I saw a lot of people going in. I saw a lot of people going in, but once we went in there was nobody around.
That's what I mean. It was that deafening silence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so unique. That was such an amazing.
But it was far in though. It was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably like Yosemite because Yosemite's so huge, right? I feel like that was the same thing with Badlands. Probably is. There are places to go. There's probably a lot to do, but there was a lot of driving. I remember that we could have continued to do. So it was, I'm sure they looked like, what the heck? These people just came in, paid $50 or whatever it was. And then, stayed for 10 minutes. Like,
do you guys remember?
But it was cool.
Going to, our goal was we wanted to see, oh my gosh, I just drew a blank. The faces, Mount Rushmore.
Yes.
We had to go see it, and we got close enough. We were so sick of driving the windy road, and we saw the figures, and we looked at each other, and we said, "Is that good?
That's enough." Yeah.
And we saved the money.
Yeah, because the idea of going to park and then going to have to walk up to some place and see.
Well, you guys were worn out for some reason because that particular day, I remember that. We found the hotel. It wasn't too far away from Mount Everest. And for some reason in my head, I thought, hey, I can walk and I can see them from some corner. And so you guys went to go take your naps or whatever. And I said, okay, I'm going to go for a walk. And if you don't see me in an hour, you can call the police. I remember saying that to you guys because I had some energy that I had to get out and walk and see it, but I didn't see anything. And I wound up turning back. But speaking about scary moments like that, what about that night that we were driving through Colorado?
You were driving, right?
The one thing you left out too, because I think when I was driving at one point, remember the deer was beheaded. If you remember, It was still standing. So it had just been hit by the truck.
Wow.
So when we drove, that's what freaked me out because the deer was still standing and it was half its body. And then the coyotes. That's probably why we saw the coyotes because it just happened. So it was fresh meat, whatever. That was less scary. The whole thing that happened in the hotel itself. Nowadays maybe I'd be more nervous about it. But when it was happening, I was just like, oh yeah, well, okay, whatever. Let's go to the room. We left poor Tony. Me and Michelle took the bags and to the room while Tony's like, mitigating between the gang and the people. I didn't even think about it like that. Oh, I guess we should stay. Tony's in danger. You know what I mean?
What did you think about that, Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, it was like you said, I guess, I think we used to take turns on who would check in, who would go unload the car. And I'm just thinking, oh, nothing's going wrong, and didn't think twice.
Well, one of the things I had looked back at one of the journals I was keeping at the time about it, and I was laughing because the whole thing seemed like a little movie sketch. I mean, I walk in, and aside from the woman coming in and saying, "You've got to call the police," and having the fight going on next door, the lone receptionist in the hotel comes out of the room. She was watching TV and she's putting her shoes on. Michelle, I don't know if you were there for this part. She was putting her shoes on as she's coming out. She's going, "I don't know why I can't just have a peaceful night. I was just sitting there watching My Fair Lady, living in the 20s.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was pretty late. It was like 1 a.m. or something like that.
It was 1 a.m.
I remember that was like, yeah. And I think the other part of it too was, so we saw that there was something going on.
Yes, the road
at that 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
But being New Yorkers, this was like a normal Thursday. You know what I mean? Like I didn't even think twice about, a police gang, some lady saying, "Call the police." Like, okay. Anyway, let me check in now. You know,
we were
what I mean?
tired.
Like that wasn't, especially during that time in '98.
Yeah. No, we were really tired.
I don't know. It didn't. But when I think back on it, because also they all started coming, like the gang members in the hallway. Remember that, when they were, which usually you don't climb in through the escape, the exit sign or climbing through a window, whatever, however they got in there to see if there's room at the hotel. But I just remember there were a lot of them, but I didn't think anything about it. I didn't think we were in trouble. So now I think about it, I'm like, wow, yeah, lucky Tony's not still with us and not part of the gang, taking off. And
I know. I was just called upon. Yeah, they asked me to translate, and I'm like, okay, sure, let's just get this thing over with, whatever. Well, we just have a couple more minutes, so I'm gonna wrap up soon. Yeah. Just out of curiosity.
So remember, every hotel we went to, Tony, but just to say, every hotel we went to, Tony was the pool inspector. It didn't matter how small the pool was. Every single hotel that we stayed at.
Oh, I didn't remember
Tony went into that pool.
Yeah, I remember. Even at that scary hotel, I woke up early that morning and I went for a dip in that pool.
Yeah, I was supposed to say.
Funny.
So, funny. You and the gang members all went for a dip.
Well, let me ask you, what do you think, Michelle, I'll start with you. What do you feel was the most rewarding part of this trip?
The fact that we survived. No, just like I said, the independence, we were all grown up. I mean, it's not like we were kids.
We weren't kids, right? Yeah. We looked like kids, but we weren't kids.
Rich and I, we were 28.
Yeah.
But it was just the fact that we could just take a chance and just do this and not overthink it. Rewarding is just that it was a chance of a lifetime. I mean, who knows if we'd ever do that again?
I don't think I could ever do that again. And I don't know, maybe less communication with everybody, but I think my parents would be having a heart attack now if I were doing this trip, less then for some reason. And I don't even think, I'm trying to think, none of us had cell phones at the time.
No,
right?
There weren't any, no, not yet.
So if there was ever any problems, that was it. And even if we did have cell phones, I don't think service probably would have been horrible anyway.
We tried calling out in the hotels every night, and I think your mother tried to reach you every night, as well as I reached out to my dad as well. Yeah,
we had phone cards is the way that we would communicate. Did you? And yeah, I'm just trying to think. There was so much. I don't know. Maybe I was naive about the world, but I wasn't really ever worried about anything. I just was kind of like going with the flow, which I guess all three of us were.
Yeah.
You didn't really think about all of the scary stuff you think about now. What if the car broke? Because we never thought about what if the car broke down.
Yeah. Well, you had a brand new car, so
I had AAA. I do know that.
Good.
Yeah.
But speaking of cars, do you guys remember I believe it was Wyoming? I got a ticket.
Oh yes, that was Wyoming.
Yeah.
And yes, and do you remember what the police officer said to me? Because he needed payment right there.
Yeah.
And I kind of looked at, because that's not how normally, you get a ticket and you send it in. And he said, well, you're out of state. And I said, okay. And I think I gave him a credit card or whatever. And I said, I'm just curious, what would happen if I didn't have the means to pay? And dead serious, he says, I'd escort you to jail.
Wow.
I was like,
right.
Well,
Right.
he had that credit card, and he had the old-fashioned credit card machine where you just, the mimeograph thing. But it was just weird that a police officer had a credit card machine with him. That was unusual. Like, that's why we thought it was a scam at first. Like, it's like, are we getting scammed for, because it was like something like $200 or something, right?
I don't remember how much, but it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
And I remember it was so not fair. I mean, granted, I'm sure I was going over, but it was not fair because the speed limit would change.
Right. It would go from 80 to 90 to 70 in just a couple miles.
Yeah.
Right.
I was not happy.
Well, let me ask you, were there any stops that we should have made or that we had intended to make but that weren't made? Like, for instance, I think we did think about Yosemite at one point.
Well, Yosemite would have been way out
too
there.
far. I think we found that out as we were driving.
Because we even did. I'm trying to remember. Did we stop in LA at all?
No.
I feel like we
didn't.
No.
No.
Okay. So then we went from Las Vegas right to Northern. Okay. Because I thought for a second that we were thinking of stopping in LA, but I guess we did that on another trip. Maybe that was you and me, Tony. We did that. I'm trying to think. The Las Vegas. It's funny when we did the Las Vegas trip. Like, that's one where I probably would have rethought where we stayed, right? Like, because where we stayed was not in a very easy way. Like, everything was walking there. Not that Las Vegas still isn't, but.
Oh, actually, I had a question from one of our watchers. My sister Lillian wanted to know, did we gamble anything in Vegas while we were there, and did we win? And I answered that I know I wrote down that I had $6 to spend, and that's exactly what I spent. I didn't spend anything else. What about you guys?
Rich and I gambled.
You did?
Yeah.
Not heavily.
I think that was my first. That was my first slot machine. No. Reno would have been the first slot machine, but that I think for some reason we realized pretty quickly that you didn't win anything there, right? Because I remember I lost something really fast and I didn't bother much.
Well, Rich, was that because you and I had our time of we loved roulette? Was that I think we did play there, and we were used to Reno prices, and then we were like, holy cow. Yeah, because the one thing, actually, side note, me and Michelle first met each other in Reno. I took a plane to Reno, and then we met up with some other friends. But that was, we started playing a lot of, I think that was where I started playing a lot more slots, but also the roulette, because it was like 25-cent roulette or something, or some crazy thing. But but Las Vegas, I felt like there were too many options. It was too big when we went there, like too many choices. So I don't think that we gambled as much,
Okay, one last question, and then we'll wrap this up because it ran a little long. Sorry about that, but this has been fun, guys. What advice would you have for someone who's considering doing a trip like this? Do you think that, obviously we have to wait till the world gets back to normal, but nowadays the world's changed. They actually have access to things that we didn't at the time. They've got Google Maps, they've got iPhones. Do you have any advice that you'd give to these kids? Or to anyone who want to do a trip like this?
Do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
And almost, unfortunately, you would want to use your devices, but I think the beauty of our trip was the fact that we didn't have
relying
in front of us.
Yeah.
But even like we all were talking to each other. We weren't just
that's true.
Like focusing in on our own little world. Yeah. If there was anything, like I even forgot I had a Game Boy, that I was in the Badlands with a Game Boy.
Right.
I didn't even remember that happened, but because that was the only way that we saw things. Because the fact that we all had eyes on the road was the only way somebody would see a sign and say, "Oh, look, this place or that place." Because that was how we found. I think it was even that place that had all the movies.
Yeah. And Michelle, as a teacher, do you have any kind of advice or input as to what something like this could offer somebody?
Yeah, like, I mean, what an opportunity to see places that I would never have seen before, you know? So just the whole idea of travel and go see as much as you can. I mean, what a learning experience, right?
Absolutely. And it was also a great experience being with you guys on this trip and reliving these memories on this video, and also having this mini reunion today. I really am so glad that we were able to manage this. And hopefully we'll be able to see each other in person, not 22 years from now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, it's been a lot of fun, and thanks very much for being on the show.
Thanks for organizing it.
Absolutely.